Okay, hi guys, welcome back. This episode, I am going to do something slightly different. I wanted to be able to use this wreath as a Christmas decoration or an earthy decoration that could complement something like a table centerpiece. And I thought the best way to do that, instead of lying it flat and taking up more space, would potentially be to put it in a silicone mould and basically encase it, encapsulate it, embed it with our deep cast. So this is our silicone mould that we've got. This is the wreath that I was able to grab, but I do need to resize it so it'll fit properly in our silicone mould. All right, so the equipment we need today, we have our wreath that we want to embed. We have a hexagon-shaped silicone mould, so we'll be able to use that with our Resi Deep Cast. Now, I have a larger ratio container. I don't plan on pouring it all in one, so I've mixed up a batch. So if you do want to refer to our measuring and mixing video, please click the link below. But I've already mixed up a batch and that's ready to go. So we'll be half pouring today. And I am going to decorate it a little bit with our Resi foil. And this is our gold foil. So I will be showing you how to do that. Couple of extra little tools. I've got scissors because I want to cut some bits off of this and reshape it. I've got some paint brushes that'll help me pop the gold foil onto some of these berries. And aside from that, for cleaning up, I've got our Resi isopropyl with our spray bottle. So let's get started. All right, so when I got this wreath, the wire base on each of these little stems and the branches was able to be moved. It was all actually a lot wider than what it was. So I've actually rotated all the branches towards the center. So that'll enable me to fit it inside the hexagon silicone mold. But I'm also going to cut some of it back so it's not so full, so we can see that it's basically encased in resin. And also my plan would be, if I was going to set this up as some kind of table decoration, I'd also love it to be an option to have it uplighted, so that way some light can shine through the deep cast and onto the wreath. So I do want to make sure I see a little bit of our resin in there and it's not just completely filled with our wreath. So I'm going to get started and cut some pieces off. So basically I just want to thin it out a little bit. There are quite a number of berries in here. So if I can take some of those off. Okay, so I thinned it out enough. I'm going to just spread the little berries around my wreath so they are both on the front and back side, because once I pop it in our silicone mould, and we've finished our project and we're demoulding it, we'll be able to see the wreath from both sides. So I do want to make sure that it looks appealing to the eye from both front and back. Okay, just going to test it and see if it sits in our silicone mould well. The other thing I want to make sure is that it doesn't come above the surface of the top of the mould, because if that happens, then I'm going to have some of our pieces out the top of the resin, which is not what we really want. So we've got a couple of leaves popping up. I'm hoping as we basically cover it in resin that they may sink a little bit. If not, I can actually cut them off as I'm going. Okay, that's good. We've got it where most of our berries and everything are basically, as you can see from the side there, not protruding out. I'll be able to manipulate the leaves a little bit when we've got resin in it. But I'm going to take it out for the time being, and I am going to start decorating some of the berries just with a little bit of our Resi foil. Now, the gold foil is very fine. Usually I like to applicate it with one of the brushes so that way you don't get it stuck all over your hands. But I will also give our berries a little light mist with our isopropyl just so the surface is a little bit wet, so we have something for the gold foil to attach itself to. And then once we've decorated a few, I won't decorate everyone, but we'll just add a little bit of a gold touch to some of the berries. Once we've done that, we're ready to sit it in our mould and pour over it. Now just lightly pat the foil on. It is very delicate. You don't need to be too rough with it. All right, we have decorated some random berries and covered them in gold foil, so front and back of our wreath. So I'm ready now to clean out our silicone mould, as it does have a little bit of dust in it and a little bit of gold foil from it floating around. So I'm going to clean it out with our pure isopropyl, wipe it down, and then we will position our wreath inside. Okay, so I've cleaned out my station, cleaned out our silicone mould. Now I'm going to position it with our wreath inside, have a last minute fiddle around with the leaves, and then we're going to cover it with our first layer of deep cast. And I'm just getting down at eye height just to make sure none of our berries or our leaves are over the top. As I am doing a half pour, I can come back and readdress this as the resin's starting to thicken up as well. Next step, we need to put on our nitrile gloves. So I'm at the moment ready for us to pour in our deep cast. Finally! So this is our Resi Deep Cast that we mixed up earlier. So I ensured that I thoroughly mixed around the sides and the base of the container, but remember to refer back to our measuring and mixing video if you'd like further details on that. But I am going to start pouring it in. This time I'm actually going to layer it in. So I'm going to use my stirrer and I'm just going to layer it on the bottom. That way when I'm pouring in my deep cast, I'm not introducing a whole lot of extra bubbles, and it'll slowly fill up around my berries by layering it down and having that stirrer touch the base of my silicone mould. I'm just pouring in slowly. The slower I pour, the less chance of sort of trapping bubbles in around all of this foliage and the little berries. I will just drizzle this lightly around or over the top of all the berries so they can get a seal up as well. Same goes for my leaves. The more I can cover, the more chance of sealing them up and no oxygen sort of seeping out into like of what is the little ends of these little plastic branches or the material from the leaves or inside the berries themselves, being that they're a light sort of foamy material. The aim of doing a half pour as well is that it'll stop any of this floating. It was a relatively light foliage wreath, so if I was to attempt to fill it to the top, there's a good chance that this would just want to float on the top and I'd have a lot of the leaves and the berries exposed on the top side of the resin. Just remove our stirrer and continue to coat as many of these berries as we can. It's definitely helping weigh down my leaves. That's all I want to fill at the moment. I'm just going to go around and make sure I do have these leaves down, like this guy here. Seems to think he's special for some reason. And the beauty about pouring this one in 2 layers is that because I'm pouring it sort of halfway up the wreath itself and all the berries and the leaves that are going on will distract us from the fact that there's actually 2 pours. So you really won't be able to see any lines between my 2 pours here. Being that we're working with deep cast, I can't go in and do another pour on this one, in another 3 hours or anything like that, like what we can with our cast or our clear. But what I will manage to do is in another few days, we'll be able to come back and attempt our second pour to fill it up. Perfect. So all I'm going to do over the next couple of days is keep checking on this. I don't need to mist this with isopropyl, or I don't have to use a heat gun or anything like that. If I do find some really big bubbles are coming up as it's thickening up out of like the stems or anything like that, that's when I can actually use a heat gun just to break that surface tension on the deep cast. I definitely don't like using isopropyl or methylated spirits or any form of solvent to spray on the top, as it does texturize the skin on the top of the deep cast. So try avoiding that and using either your heat torch or a heat gun or blowtorch, I should say. But with us here, we just like to stick with our heat gun. So I will monitor that. But aside from that, I am now just going to let this sit. So we'll join you again in another few days. Hi guys. So it has been a few days and we've let our first layer set. So I'm about to pour in our second layer and completely embed our wreath here. So I've mixed up another batch of our Resi Deep Cast. So remember, if you do want to refer to how we've measured and mixed, check out the link below. But aside from that, this layer is pretty simple. All I want to do is make sure that all of my berries are covered and that we fill right to the top, and then we're going to basically let that sit and wait to be able to demold it. So let's get pouring. The tiniest bit short, so I'll mix another small batch up and just top this up these last couple of mils in the top of this silicone mould. Because it's deep cast, I'm not concerned about mixing another batch so close to pouring, because the pot life for the deep cast is up to 2 hours, so it's not going to affect having a different batch added to this one. So give me a second and we'll mix up another batch. Okay. We've mixed up a tiny additional amount of our Resi Deep Cast just so I can top it up that little further, as I miscalculated by a couple of mils. So we'll pour this layer in. And like I said, because we've only just poured the previous batch, with Deep Cast there's no real time difference when we are talking the pot life being 2 hours, so it does give me time to add this little bit back in. Okay, so we are full to the top. Now, there's quite a few bubbles in this mixture. That's from me mixing through the part A and part B. With the deep cast, the bubble dispersion is absolutely amazing. So I will not be touching this. I will not be misting it with isopropyl, because we don't want to do that with our deep cast, as it does form a little bit of a skin on the top layer. So I'm not going to touch it at all. I'm going to let these bubbles release and let the deep cast do its thing. And we will be back in about 7 to 10 days when this is fully cured to demold and show you the end results. Okay, welcome back guys. We have waited for our second layer to cure, and that has been about the 7-day mark. So it is actually time to demold. I'm really excited about this bit. Just to note quickly as well, we do have a couple of teeny little bubbles that have seeped out that I wasn't able to maintain and remove by watching over it. But because they're so small at the moment, I'm going to leave them in there. We've got a lot going on here. Most of that will be covered. But if you did want to know about how you can actually repair tiny little bubbles like that, make sure you refer back to our scorpion video for that info. But let's get to it. We're going to demold. So I'm just pulling away from all the sides to start with, just to loosen my silicone mould up. And I'm going to tip it upside down and peel it back. Whoa, this piece looks really cool. So this is our end result. So this is a really cool display, but I have another idea as well. So to make this an official centerpiece or make it a mood lamp, I actually have a little LED uplight that I want to sit it on, so that way we can light it up. So bear with me a sec. So of a night time, this is a really cool way to basically highlight your centerpiece. It can be a centerpiece, it can be a mood lamp, like I said. It's I guess, as well with the way the wreath is here, it's not completely sort of Christmas themed or festive themed, so you could actually keep this around your as house decor all year round. So I think it's a pretty cool effect. Plus, with the hexagon silicone mould, you can actually rotate and sit on any side if you've got a preference of how the berries and the leaves are sitting. But as an end result, pretty happy with that. Basically demold and ready to go straight away. So thanks again for watching in, guys. If you do have any further comments about this process, make sure you leave them below, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.